Guys, welcome back to another MCreator tutorial. So today what we're going to be looking at is one specific block under the blocks, procedures, and actions. If we scroll down to the bottom, there is a little block down here that is simulate right click of, and then a type of entity, and then on block at, and then X, Y, and Z. So this one is very unique for how it works. It's a block that can simulate a right click without the player or entity being at that location. So basically what we can do is something a little bit more advanced and do a right click event remotely or in certain conditions and stuff like that. You might need to force load the chunk in order for the block to be there. Technically, some blocks aren't loaded in if the chunks aren't loaded. So it's always best to force load and then force unload after if it's further distance or it's in a different dimension. But we can easily do this with a quick example. So let's hop in game and I will show you what I have set up for this particular one. So I have two things here. I have a stick and I have a weather control device. So when we go ahead and place down the weather control device, what is going to happen is we're going to be saving the position to player variables. And these are persistent variables that we can basically keep track of the coordinates of that particular block. And then we use those coordinates later on in script to do it remotely. So let's go ahead and place this down. Now this does have a right click event. We can trigger this by simply right clicking on it and it'll start raining. And if we click on it again, after we just make sure everything is a little bit darker, it will get even darker and it'll start thundering. So now it's currently thundering, and then we can click it again and it will turn to clear weather. So that's the basic right click mechanics that I have there. Now because we place that block down there, what we can do is we can go over here. And I have the stick. This can be really any item that I can think of, but I just wanted a stick to be a little bit more unique. So if we right click on any block around here, we can trigger that block now. So we can right click here and it'll start raining because it's simulating the right click event at that block when we right click here. Now we could do this through block breaking or anything pretty much. So it doesn't matter what kind of trigger, it's just going to simulate the right click at that location. And we can do it again for thunder. It gets darker, and then we can do it again for clear. And it becomes clear again. So let's go into the code and I'll show you what I've basically set up because you guys are probably curious how I did this. So I'll do that right now. All right, so what I have is a block placed. That's basically where we're going to be storing the variables from. And then we have the weather control right click. That's the event that we're basically running the script from to change the weather. And then what we have is the right click on block. This is what we're using to trigger the stick action when we right click on any block that is not the same block as this one. So let's go ahead and quickly check the variables first. So I have a global variable for X, Y, and Z for target X, Y, and Z for the player persistent, and this is all set to 0 by default. It doesn't need to really matter because we're going to be setting it when we place the block, and these are all number variables. Resources, I don't actually have anything in here that is worth really noting, so let's go ahead and quickly check the block is placed. And basically I'm just checking, running a global trigger, a block is placed, and then the variable for testing if the block state is basically the weather control device. And then what I'm doing is I'm setting those variables for the block location that we're using. So the X, Y, and Z position of that block that we just placed. So once we've done that, we can go ahead and work on the actual right click event. So this is a really simple procedure. I'm just using an else and if statement as well as an else statement, and I'm testing first if it's thundering, and if it's thundering, what I'm doing is I'm turning it to clear for 10 days, and this is just using the execute in and then the Minecraft overworld, which is where basically weather commands are basically structured. This might change a little bit in the future, but right now that's basically where you would run the commands from. And then we're using run and then weather and then clear, then the amount of days, how many that you do that. You do that by 10D, and then that will be days. And then I'm doing the same for raining. If it's raining, then I'm turning it to thunder for 10 days. And then the last one, if it's not thundering or raining, then what I'm doing is I'm changing it to rain for 10 days. And this can happen at the X, Y, and Z coordinates. It doesn't really matter too much about that. The last one is where all the remote stuff happens. And the first thing that we're testing for is if the player has in their main hand a stick, and that the block is not a weather control device that we're right clicking on. And then after that, we're testing for if the block at the target X, Y, and Z location is a weather control device. And finally, what we're doing is we're just simulating the right click at the block's location where we saved previously. So basically the target X, Y, and Z position. And that's all there is to it. It's just a really simple system for testing or running a right-click event based on the player, or maybe possibly even other entities. I'm not sure if that's possible, but you can definitely do that. But anyhow, hopefully you found this tutorial useful. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, comment down below, rate the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace out.